Good evening. My name is Om Jedia. My ID is 23CS026. Today I am going to present about AMD versus x88 processor. The content we are going to cover is introduction. We will talk about what is x88, what is AMD, Ryzen, difference between AMD and x88, x86 processor, evaluation of x86 architecture, AMD's Zen architecture, then Intel's x86 architecture performance versus we are going to talk on single core versus multi-core threading concepts, AMD strengths, marketing share comparisons of AMD and Intel architectures. So yes, moving to introduction, we are going to cover like overview of processor architecture importance, introduction to AMD as a company, and we will also analyze difference between x86 and AMD processor. What is difference between x86 architecture and what is difference between Intel x86 AMD Ryzen processor. First, what is x86 processor? So basically x86, which means that which was developed by Intel company in 1978 year. It also refers to like x86 as given in the PPT. It refers to instruction set of architecture. So the more number of instruction set of architecture, the more efficient the processor will be. So yes, it was originally introduced with 8086 processor by at the beginning of development by Intel company, and it is severally used in PCs, servers, gamings. Uh, Very frequently used in gaming is AMD, but yeah, x86 is used nowadays in like PCs, and we all are using in chips, camera chips, and all. So it supports 64-bit operations code like micro operation to perform operations of 64 bits like addition, subtraction, and many more bit manipulations. And also it uses more memory. So after that, evaluation of x86 architecture. In evaluation, like there was a transition of bit architecture, and AMD's when AMD came into market in early 2000, the evaluation of x86 architecture was quite less because of coming competency of AMD Ryzen 64 processor. So that was like we can say that that was a backset of x86 architecture processor which was lagging behind in front of AMD 64 processor. Yes, after that it come in, as I said, in early 2000s, there was a invention, or we can say there was competency of AMD market with x86 Intel processor. So when X AMD processor came into the market, which is Advanced Micro Devices processor, which was found in 1969, which was also like as I said competes with Intel by producing X processors using the x86 architecture. So it yes, there are many AMD processors, like as we know Ryzen, the one of the famous we can say development, or we can the variant of AMD processor. Then another is Threadripper, everyone must be knowing. And yes, these are the processor series: Ryzen, Threadripper, EPYC, and all. Another is like after coming of AMD in after early 2000s, and yes, it was Intel x86 processor was came into the market around, as I said, in 1978 by Intel company. So what is the difference between these two processors? So AMD processor mainly focuses on gaming and multi-core performance concepts, whereas x86 does not, like we can say they focus on more on CPU working, PC servers, single core performance based. They do not rely on heavy architecture performance. So as we can say, where AMD uses its heavy processing capacity, here x86 doesn't. It only performs in single core processing. Whereas if we compare in pricing, So basically AMD generally refers to a good pricing amount which is very cheap rather than x86. X86 is like very expensive than AMD processors. Another is AMD's Zen architecture. The AMD Zen architecture was launched with a Ryzen processor, as I said, after when it came in the market in early 2000s. So just to improvise it, it came with another Ryzen processor. Intel and x86 processor often better single core performance and integrated graphics, but at higher price. As I said, Intel x86 processor came with a single which works only on single core performance. It doesn't work at like we can say multi-core performance or heavy gaming duty or heavy performance. Intel x86 doesn't have that kind of we can say so much of integrated graphics, whereas AMD has. So also AMD supports very high multi-threading performance, and that's why like we can say AMD is also brand premium compared to Intel's processors. Yes, Zen 3 and Zen 4 are the another variants of AMD Zen architecture, which came into the significant boost. Also, it delivers in more instructions per clock, which will result in more efficiency of micro operations and responding of input and output performance of hardware and computers. See, more instructions per clock will result in more productivity of task, will result in more, we can say, multi-threading capabilities, which will result in more efficient communication between common bus architecture and registers. So more number of, we can say, speedy instruction per clock will be the most efficiency of architecture of processor will lead to beneficiary. Another is Intel's x86 architecture. Intel's x86 architecture, as I said, which was developed by Intel, which is primarily used in, we are nowadays using Intel Core i3. Nowadays laptops are getting most commonly HP, the one of the most renowned companies like selling their laptops using Intel Core i3, i7, i9, and so on. They are having more of the variants of this Intel's processing x86, which includes more variants, Core i3 and all, which will lead to see this i3, i5, i7, and i9. These are the variants, and what is the difference between this? Like let's say like the one of the gaming task which is very heavy. Let's say the one of the heavy gaming which can run only on i7 cannot be run on i3. If it will run on i3, then it will lag, or there will be some API glitch, or there will be very low damn performance or low end performance for gaming. So for that they have discovered another multi-threading variant which is i5. So for improving another high end performing, they introduce i7 and so on i9. So i9 is the one of the, we can say, the best high end performing processor variant, which will give us the one of the smoothest we can say the performance of any heavy duty task. Yes, so performance comparison between single core and multi-core. Multi-core is basically multi-threading. Like let's say like you are doing multi-core is multi-threading, like doing a work simultaneously, but at a different time. Like let's say that many works are given but doing at a simultaneous time. So that is called multi-threading, multi-core performance. So single core performance is basically like we can say refers to processing power of a single CPU core, which heavily duty on single threading tasks such as old games, and as I said that high clock speed and better IPC will lead to more, we can say, more performance and more efficiency in we can say the frame rates. Whereas in multi-core performance, it will rely on heavy duty performance like heavy rendering, heavy video editing, heavy gaming performance, and so this will lead to high core performance. These are i9 and i7 supporting performance, which will give you best processing, we can say complex for processing for complex tasks. Single core performance, like we are using in heavy real world, like in gaming, where we are using single core very rarely, like Intel x86 uses in gaming very rarely. But as compared to AMD is a big market, and they are delivering huge in gaming video editing. They are delivering huge for my multi-core processor in nowadays. So yeah, multi-core performance has AMD more reliable for good performance task. Yes, so we will talk about AMD strength. So yes, AMD strength, first is strong core count. So AMD has a very strong core count, typically refers to a higher number of cores. So it means that more number of counts, or more number of threads, which means a more number of multi-threading, which also we can say in other words that more number of multi-threading is more number of work doing simultaneously at a time, but different works. So it will lead to enhance with good efficiency and good performance for heavy duty applications. Another is heavy advanced manufacturing process. AMD, yes, we know that AMD uses 7 nanometer manufacturing process in Ryzen processor and EPYC processors, which provide better for its better performance and energy efficiency. See, this is the reason why AMD is we can say they compete at Intel x86 in market. They uses very 7 nanometer manufacturing process in their processors. They're providing better efficiency in heavy duty and we like video rendering or gaming. These are the heavy duty performance tasks they have to complete. So they use this very 7 nanometer manufacturing process in their processors. Another is affordability. Yes, gamers do play their games on heavy duty core i9, core i7. So for that, they do not need any kind of glitch for in between games. So they provide a very cheap, we can say they provide at very lower cost. So for that, every gamers can afford a lower price and high performance gaming processor. Another is integrated graphics options. So AMD Ryzen's G series includes integrated Radeon graphics. So yes, this is G series which includes integrated graphic chip, which also enhance the performance without any dedicated graphic card. So yes, there is no need in Ryzen G series. There is no need of any graphic card externally. They are like providing integrated Radeon graphics, so no need to have graphic card for their ideal performance and all. Scalability is another point which they need. AMD architecture allows scalable scalable in both consumer and enterprise market. As I said that, see, they are also providing their cost. They are very cost efficient. Like they are very eco-friendly. I mean, in cost cutting, they are very cheap. So like they provide very at cheaper rates in consumer and enterprise market. So everyone can afford it. Another is long-term commitment. So AMD has a reputation for, like as I said, every company has its good long-term commitment to provide reputed, what we can say, quality product for their reputation of a company. So AMD builds a good quality of processors, and for that they are building a good reputation in a market for which they will lead to good consumer market in their global level, so allowing to user to upgrade CPU without needing to replace. Yes, so they are doing one task that, like they are allowing their every time they are upgrading their CPUs without need to replace any motherboard externally. They, by doing this, their repo will be more good in global level. And yes, market share comparison of AMD versus Intel. At the end, AMD has more significant growth in market shares over the past years, whereas Intel is also well recognized brand in semiconductor industry. But in gaming industry, we can say that AMD and like gaming industry is not like specific. Like if we talk about gaming industry or heavy rendering duty, like heavy video editing, heavy complex task, AMD Ryzen's performs very significant role in it, whereas Intel is playing significant and recognized role in semiconductor industry. So this is the way where Intel continues to hold a position in innovation, whereas AMD continues in gaming market also. So yeah, that's from my side. If you have any doubt, you can mail me on my given email 23cs026 @charusat.edu.in, and thank you from my side.